Hi, my name is Bob and welcome to the homestead, y'all. Well, it's finally time to install our biodigester. I should have done this earlier in the year, but other projects took priority over it. We're going to install it here in our garden spot. This is south facing. This is our outside of our offices on our barn. So I'm going to install it. It's going to start somewhere on the other side of this window and it'll go to the other side of that window. The biodigester will go here. But first I have to clean this mess up. This, like I said, this is in our garden spot. This is cover crops. We have chicory in here, dandelion, clover. We have just all kinds of stuff in here. So what I need to do is weed eat this down and then level the ground. It needs to be as close to level as can be. I have some dirt up here on the hill, so I'm going to take my tractor and wheelbarrow. I'll have to wheelbarrow it in here. But I'll take my tractor and scoop that dirt up, put it in the wheelbarrow, and then I'm going to level this. And then I'm going to pack it real good. After I pack it, then I'm going to put landscape fabric over it. Really, it's geo that goes under roads. It's real thick, so that way nothing can puncture the bottom side of the biodigester. And then after we install the biodigester here, we're going to bend some greenhouse bows, and we're going to attach them up here at the top. And then we're going to cover it in plastic, so that way we can get methane further into the winter and earlier in the spring. Our goal with this project, I'm going to put the burner inside my office to where I can cook with it. But our eventual goal is going to be able to cook with it all year long, or at least in the summertime, and we can cook with our wood stove in the wintertime. But right now we have to buy propane. I want to eliminate that bill as much as I can. So if we can create enough methane that we can cook for an hour a day, or maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, then that would be great, because then that would eliminate our propane bill, plus it would put us that much closer to being self-sufficient. So if we can take waste products from our animals, and waste products like this chicory, and feed it into our biodigester and create methane with it that we can cook with, then that just gives us one little bit more independence. We're not dependent on the prices of propane. Right now propane prices are going through the roof, and so is natural gas. So if I can take a waste product that's here on our homestead, like chicory, like your garden scraps, your kitchen scraps, and your animal manure and animal waste, and I can turn it into methane, then that's a win-win for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll just do a time lapse of weed eating this down and leveling it up, but I'll bring my transit out here, or my laser level, and we'll level this as best we can, because we're going to be filling the biodigester with water, and then we're going to make a slurry out of animal manure to put in it to get it boosted and get it started inside of it to help jump start the cycle. And maybe we can produce some methane before winter gets too cold. If not, then it'll be springtime when the weather warms up, then we'll be able to generate methane. But this is going to be a good test for us and see how much methane we can produce during the winter. Okay, there's a couple things I want to do before I get started. I want to rake all the greens I just cut down up. I'm going to rake them up, put them in our compost piles. Then I'm going to take a tape measure and a couple flags and a red marker, and I'm going to go ahead and mark off where I want for my greenhouse bows to be, so that way I can square it up now and I don't have to worry about doing it once I get the biodigester in the way. I can go ahead and get it squared up, and then we can go ahead and come back in here and we can level the ground. Okay, I've got all the greens raked out of here. I have my marks on the metal over here on the rack guard, and I have red flags here. So I've marked each end, each corner, I've squared it up. I'm within about a ½ inch of square, so that'll be good enough for this project. But I have a flag here and a mark there, and at 14 feet I have another mark and another flag, so it's 14 feet long and 6 feet wide. The biodigester is 85 inches long, and it's 45 inches wide. So if I put it all the way up against the side, I'm going to have about 2.5 feet on this outside edge to walk around it, and I'll have plenty of room on each end, because you have to be able to get to each end. One end you feed your stock, whether it's greens, whether it's waste product, and then on the other end you get your fertilize out of it. So you can get liquid fertilize out of it. So not only are we getting methane, but we're getting liquid fertilizer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some dirt and I'm going to go ahead and level this pretty close. I'm just going to eyeball it, and then I'll bring my transit out here, my laser level. I'll set it up and I'll shoot it real quick, and then I'll go ahead and finish leveling it. Alright, we have to fill 40 of these bags up with sand. You can see I have one here. It has a line on it. It tells you to put a liter of sand in them, in each one of these. What I did is I just took a 2-liter bottle, put a liter of water in it, set it down on a level table, made me a mark, and then cut it off. That way I can take this, I can scoop it, and I can pour it in there. I don't have to measure and watch each bag, because it needs to be filled up to that line. You need to squeeze the air out of it and then ziplock it back. These go on top of the biodigester to create pressure for your gas. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all 40 of these. Well, it's time to unbox our biodigester. The biodigester we chose to go with is the HomeBiogas 2. I've had this for a while. I backed them on Kickstarter back, I think it was 2018, it may have been 2019. And then they were supposed to ship these out in the spring of 2020. COVID hit and they didn't get to ship them out then. I think we got ours in October or November of 2020. But by backing them on Kickstarter, we got our HomeBiogas unit. You can see it comes in 2 boxes here. We got it for about half price, maybe 60% off, I don't remember. They already had a product out, their HomeBiogas 1, their first one. And it just looked like a great product, so yeah, I just thought it was a good investment to go ahead and back them on Kickstarter when they came out with their second one. Now they have several other ones. I think they have a 4 and a 7. Depending on how much gas you want to produce, they get bigger and bigger. The HomeBiogas 2 is supposed to give, in ideal conditions, it'll give up to 2 hours of cooking a day. So that means this is going to produce enough methane to cook for 2 hours a day, which is more than enough to cook all 3 meals, your breakfast, your lunch, and your supper. But what we're going to do is we're going to put it out here. I'm going to put it in my office. I'm going to test it for the next year and see how it does. We're going to build a greenhouse over it so it stays warm during the winter time. Ideally, you want to keep them over 68 degrees. Now, if you live in a real cold climate, they make heaters that you can hook into these. I'm going to try just building the greenhouse over it and see how well it does. In the wintertime, we do most of our cooking on a wood stove anyhow, so I'm not too worried about how much gas it'll produce in the wintertime, but in the summertime, I need it to produce gas. So for now, let's go ahead and unbox it. We'll unbox this first box first, which is the actual biodigester. Now, this company is out of Israel. But the engineering on this thing is just genius. As we go through it, I'll talk about how they engineered it. Everything I've seen, they just did a great job. So in this first box is the actual biodigester, which is a real tough material. We'll just set it out right there. And that's all that's in your first box. I'm going to set this box off to the side here in the garden. Now in your second box, I did take the sandbags out of these. They give you Ziploc plastic bags, which are real heavy polyethylene, and I filled them with sand. You saw that earlier in this video. You put 1 liter of sand in them. But other than that, I haven't taken anything out, so this is how they come. So you have instruction sheet. In here, a bag of probiotics to get it started. You have 2 different size gas lines. Now they send enough gas line, I think they send 7 meters. with it, and we're going to put the gas outlet on that end, so this is going to be plenty of gas line for us. If not, you can buy this gas line. You can get it, so if you need more gas line than that, you can get it. Your sink stopper. Give me a nice little hat here. I think I saw one of somebody's and they had a blue jean hat. Similar to that, a nice little hat. This is your sink. So this is where you put all your product in, which we're going to have a door on each end of our greenhouse so that we can put our waste products in the sink on this side, and then get the fertilizer and the gas out of the other side. We'll set the sink on this side. This is your gas outlet and your fertilizer outlet. So this will go on the other end. Okay, this is your gas filter. It looks like, yep, gas filter, 90, and it looks like you have an extra biogas filter. So they send you 2 filters with it to start with. Another hose. Looks like some lubricant and assorted fittings. This is part of your gas hose also. So we'll take all our gas hoses and we'll take them down to the other end. Okay, this I think goes on your sink. This will go down inside the biodigester, and then your sink will mount on top of this. And we have 2 more boxes in here. Okay, this is a heater. So there's your heater. So in the wintertime you can hook it up. I think it's a 300 watt heater. We're going to try our best not to use that. As you know, our homestead's completely off grid. To use a 300 watt heater for 24 hours, that'd take a lot of solar and a lot of batteries, or a lot of wind. So I'm just going to set this aside. We may use it, we may not. But you can see here, HomeBiogas quartz heater. Set it aside. Okay, this is our stove. Alright, so I want the gas on this end since I'm going to put the stove inside my office on this side. That's my wife Christy's office on that side. So how do you know which end is your gas outlet? And when you roll this out, there's a little black tube with a dotted line on it. This is your gas outlet. So we know that this end is the gas outlet, so I want it on this end. Now if you wanted your gas outlet on the other end, then of course you'd want to spin it around. So I know this is the gas outlet. I'm going to slide this away from the wall just a little bit. Just like that. Spread everything out good. Okay, there's our bag and our unit. Of course, this will go on this end. The gas filter and fertilizer outlet go on that end. You can see there's your gas line there. Okay, so now we need to start getting some parts together. Okay, I have the instruction booklet out. It tells you step by step how to install it. Also, HomeBiogas 2 or HomeBiogas.com has a great installation video on this. I figured I would do one just to show you a real world situation on how to install this. So we're going to go ahead. I have 3 different bags and they're split up into groups. And of course, the first bag has our seals. Now the seal is a little rubber ring. It's like an O-ring, but it's angled. And in the instruction booklet, it shows you what direction the angle should be. So this O-ring is beveled. So you want the wide part of the bevel to go down. So we're going to put 1 O-ring inside the 45. And there's a little notch inside here that it goes in. Alright, Princess. right there. So I'm going to show you here if I can get the cat out of the way. So you can see, I can get it to focus on it. Goes in just like that. You can see the angle down here of your O-ring. So we'll put the O-ring in the 45, put another O-ring in your straight tube, and it's the same way. It's notched inside, and the O-ring goes right inside that notch. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just slide the O-ring right inside the notch there. So you can see we have it inside. Hopefully it's focused on that. Now inside this same bag, 2 more O-rings and a little thing of lubricant here. So the other 2 O-rings go in each side of your biodigester. So one goes in here. This is where your other one goes. On the other end of your biodigester. And that's your gas tube. Okay, to start with, we'll start with our 45. Make sure our straight pieces. And we'll open our lubricant up and we'll put lube all the way around this. Looks like there's plenty. So I'm going to put it on here generously. Now, we're going to put the 45 on it. Okay, looks like that seats all the way down. I think everything got in there good. Now what we want to do is put our 45 on here, push it into the bag, and once this fills up with water, this will end up standing just like that, and our sink will go on top of this. So what we want to do is, there's a piece of cardboard in here, and you just leave that cardboard in, because that helps protect the bottom of the bag when you push this 45 into it. So I'm going to go ahead and lube this side up. Just put the rest of that in there. Okay, so we want to line him up like this. Push it straight down in there as you can. And you want to pull this collar all the way up till it stops. Just like that. Now once this fills up, this tube should be straight up and down, hopefully. Now it's time to do our gas outlet side. You can see this is our gas pipe. This little flat foot is going to set right on this bag once it's installed. So what I want to do is, we want to put this right inside there, and this is going to connect to our gas hose. So we want it just like that. So let me go ahead and put some lube on this, and we'll push it down in there. So we want to do the same thing with this one. Push it down in, and then pull the collar up. Just like that. So the collar comes right up to the bottom. Make sure it's all the way up, all the way around it. Bend this bag down a little. Okay, now we're back down at the other end that has the sink. Our sink comes with 4 ropes, and they have little carabiners on each rope. And our sink's going to go on here just like this. So, what we want to do is, we want to take 2 of these. Underneath it, there's some straps underneath the bag, and you want to hook those little carabiners inside those straps, just like that. Our sink sets on like this. And we want to go to the other side and do the same thing. Right underneath here, another strap. Hook them like that. So once this fills up, then we'll put our sink on and we'll hook these other two straps at the top. So for now, I'm going to set that down. I think we're ready to fill it with water at this point. I have my hose here now. Got a little bit extra. Now, my water is coming from a cistern on top of the hill up here. I have a 275 gallon cistern. I think they said this takes 300 gallons. That's okay. Right around the corner of the barn here, I have another 500 gallon cistern. I assume that they normally fill these with city water. I know in the instructions it says to wait a day before you activate it, before you pour your animal manure in there. Now, I assume you want to be careful if you have a sharp edge on your hose. You don't want to poke a hole in this bag. So I'm going to put it in here, nice and easy. It says in the instructions to leave both of these pointing in as you fill it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, then I'll watch it as it fills up. Okay, I have our hose on. Hear the water coming out. What we'll do is we'll just wait a little while, let this fill up. Like I said, this is coming from a cistern. This is gravity fed, so it's probably going to take me a lot longer than it would you if you're using city water and you have 30 to 40 psi. You'll be able to fill this bag up pretty quick. It may take a couple hours, so we'll come back and we'll check on it then. So how do we know when the biodigester is full? On the gas side, this is where the liquid fertilizer comes out. Once this water gets to the top of this and starts draining out, then you know that it's full. I did have to hook up to our 500 gallon tank, our cistern up the hill. The 275 gallon emptied out into here, and I think, like I said, I think it takes around 300 gallons. But I'm going to stop it just a little bit shy. It's coming up. It's up to right in here right now on it. So I'm going to stop it right in here. I'll go ahead and shut the water off, and then we'll continue putting this together. I did make one mistake, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But I put the bag too close to the building. I left it about 8 inches out, and as it filled up with water, the sides expanded further than 8 inches. So that's one thing. If you're going to put it up next to a building, I would put it at least a foot away from the building. So when you lay your bag out, lay it out at least a foot away from your building. So that way when the bag fills up with water, it doesn't push up against it. Now I did put some cardboard over here. I don't think it's going to hurt the bag any. It's just barely touching it. I can wiggle the cardboard, but I thought just in case, I'd just put that cardboard there just so we don't rub a hole in our bag. But other than that, it looks like it's doing well. Like I said, it's right in here right now, just above that mark, so it's almost completely full. So the next step is we'll put the sink on, and then I'll have to look in the instruction manual, but I think the step after that is we put the sandbags in. All right, we have our biodigester full. Now it's time to mount our sink on. Of course, it mounts right on here, right on the top. But first we need to lube the bottom of this sink, clean it real well. So I'm just going to set it right up there. And take our lubricant from earlier and just go ahead and go around the top of this. Looks like it's got it pretty good. Now, flip our sink over. It goes all the way in, and there's some tabs under here, and your little carabiners go on them. That. Looks really well. Of course, your water's all the way up into here. I did stop it just a little bit short on that end. I know when I put my slurry in this sink, that it's going to push the water out the other end. So here's our sink stopper. Let me zoom the camera out here. Okay, this is your sink stopper. This is what you push your product down in. It goes down in like that. And I assume if you have this outside, that keeps water from going in there. But I don't know how you would drain the water out. So maybe you just let it go in there and push your fertilizer out the other end. Now it doesn't show this on the instructions or in the video that I watched, but I assume it came with this little 2-inch hose or 1.5 inches, whatever it is. I guess it's 2-inch, 1 3/4. Anyhow, it comes with this, and this fits on here. They don't send a band with this of any kind, so what I think I'll do is just get a hose clamp and put on this, and then you can set a 5-gallon bucket here. So that way when you fill the other end with your kitchen scrap and waste or your animal waste, it pushes your liquid fertilizer out this end. So that way you can catch it in a 5-gallon bucket, and then you can fertilize your garden with it. So you'll pour it right straight on your garden or your flowers, whatever you're going to use it for. So that's really nice. It's a nice feature. The only thing, I wish they would have put some kind of hose clamp, but I've got some big hose clamps, so it's no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and just slide this on for now, and then I'll get me a hose clamp. And before we feed our slurry in, I'm going to go ahead and hose clamp this on and put a 5-gallon bucket here, which that'll probably be tomorrow. Right now we need to go ahead and put our sandbags in. The sandbags are what create pressure for your gas, which I think is just ingenious. You don't have to use a pump, you don't have to use any kind of springs or anything. So I think that's a great design the engineers of this came up with by using sandbags. So for now, I'm just going to leave that like that until I can get a hose clamp and a 5-gallon bucket before we put our slurry in. Like I said, that'll probably be tomorrow. Okay, it's time to put our sandbags in. They send you these little polyethylene bags, and it has a line to fill them up. And I talked about this a little bit earlier in the video and showed you filling those up. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in. In the instruction manual, they have a little diagram here. You can see 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, 8 across the top. And this is what creates the pressure for your gas. So you can see the layout, and I'm going to follow this layout. They have little pockets right here. Looks like they're pretty tough. It's stiff, it's thick material, so I'm going to go ahead and get started putting those in. It looks like on this end they get 2 there and 8 across there. I don't see these end ones that they're talking about, 4 of them. But anyhow, I'll figure it out. So I'm going to start with these end ones right here. Put 2 on this side and 2 on that side. I have all my sandbags in the wheelbarrow down there, so I'm going to get started on that. Okay, we have all the sandbags in. Now the only thing left is to fold these flaps over. They have flaps on these. And they have these little tie-offs here and a hole in them. And that's to keep the flaps closed. I'm just going to put a 1/2 inch in them. This is some really stiff material, really tough. There we go. And it looks like they have about 5 tie-offs here. That way you can tie these flaps shut. And they have just a small hole. You got to bend the end of this to get it in there. Then they have the same thing on this other side. And I'll just do that off camera. No sense in you all sitting here watching me tie off the flap. I just wanted to show you that. Like I said, this is pretty tough material. So hopefully it'll last for years. And I'm sure that was the idea. That's a good thing. Of course, ours isn't going to be exposed to the wind and the weather, since we're going to put a greenhouse over it. But I still want to go ahead and tie these so that way as the gas expands, the sandbags don't fall out. Which I don't think they're going to, but better safe than sorry. Okay, I'll tie off this other side. And tomorrow we'll add slurry to it. We'll do our gas lines, get them hooked up to the cooktop inside, add our slurry, and then we'll wait a couple weeks and hopefully we'll be cooking with methane. Well, this is the end of part 1 of our installation of our HomeBiogas 2 biodigester. In part 2, we'll show you hooking up the gas lines and hooking up the stove, and then we'll go ahead and we'll activate our system. We'll be pouring our slurry in here and getting it activated. And then in part 3, we'll be putting the greenhouse over top of it, and we'll be cooking on methane, hopefully. So if you have any questions on part 1, please leave them in the comments below, or if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. And I'll put the link to part 2 in the description, and probably right up here at the end of this video. And as always, thanks for watching.